everyone, this is Jeff Glass with Alpha Media Group. I'm here with Paul Lindahl from Odds and Ends Junk Removal out on the East Coast. And Paul, I wanted to hear a little bit about your business, where you're located, and what areas you serve, and how'd you get started in the business? How'd you get into junk removal?
Yeah, well, like a lot of people, it seems, in the junk removal business, I came into the side door, so to speak. I was definitely not on anybody's waiting list. So, and it started by I was doing lawn care and a little furniture moving for myself on the side, and after years of factory work where I was really burnt out, and I needed to do something for myself, and really needed to get off the clock is what I needed to do. And so I got my feet wet doing some lawn care. And when that slowed down, I started trying to figure out what I was going to do or what I could do with some of the trailers that I had when there wasn't a lot of work. And so I started moving furniture with some of my trailers. And eventually that led into disposing furniture, which it seemed almost every time I moved some furniture for someone, I was asked if I could get rid of some as well. And we got so many of those requests. I saw there was a bigger demand, and or better put, there was less competition doing junk removal than there was furniture moving. And it was almost doing the same service. It's furniture essentially back and forth. But this was disposal, and it was quicker and easier. It was more profitable. And so, over time, we saw an opportunity.
Very good. And you're located in Connecticut. What area of Connecticut and what surrounding areas do you service around there?
I'm in Vernon, Connecticut. It's almost right in the center of the state, and we cover the entire area. So it's almost an hour in every direction. And so we cover all four corners, and we stick to Connecticut and, some of southern Massachusetts. And for specific certain jobs, we might go to Rhode Island or parts of New York if the jobs are large enough. But for most of our trailer size, full trailer load, we'll stick into about a 1 hour radius. So we definitely cover all of Connecticut.
Okay. Now you mentioned you done maybe some factory work or warehouse work. Now, have you found that being in that type of work, what areas could you relate to, or what areas do you address business different and running your own company rather than working for somebody else?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think one of the things I realized, especially while working at the factory, is I really didn't enjoy being told what to do by other people who clearly didn't enjoy what they did. It really rubbed me the wrong way, and it was it kind of felt like a dead end. It kind of felt like this is as good as things are going to get. Maybe we can look at a few raises here and there down the road, but and it was financially a really comfortable situation. All the bills were going to be paid, and there was a nice retirement plan, and it was a great place that I got myself into. But that clearly wasn't going to be enough. The money wasn't going to be enough because it wasn't a happy environment. So I found myself just a lot more productive when left to my own devices rather than being told what to do. And I also have a background in sales. I was actually a car salesman before I got into factory work. And unknowingly, that was kind of my college, so to speak. That was my education for getting involved in a service industry where people skills and customer interaction is so important, because we can all lift a couch and throw it out, but it's getting those jobs over the phone and being competitive when there's so many other phone numbers these people can call. It's important for you to be the one that they pick. The company, I sold Hondas for 6 or 7 years. And one of the biggest things that we took away was not selling against Ford or Toyota. The biggest problem selling Hondas was selling against other Honda dealerships, which there was, which there are 10 of within a half-hour drive in any direction. So really learning how to grind it out against your competition was super, super important. And that's kind of where we find ourselves right now. There's a ton of competition. Why are they going to pick us? And so that's a huge part of what I took away from the informal education all those years in sales.
You and I connected, I'd say close to a year ago, the first time we had a conversation. And then we started working together roughly about 6-7 months ago. And we talked about, the way that we approach business. And you talked about the importance of branding, because there's a lot of junk removal and service businesses out there like, okay, I want to go get business. I'm going to run ads. And I will stress to them the importance of the branding piece. Hey, we're not for everybody. Our business is a little bit different. We focus on the marketing, the advertising side, but the branding is what is that constant piece that's going to be in front of people. It's the people recognize the arches or they recognize the Coca-Cola symbol. What have you found, and why was it important to you to really say, look, I'm going to brand myself and not just be a junk remover. I'm going to be a business. What was going through your mind at that time to make that transition?
So a big part of what we were up against is trying to figure out how to keep enough business coming in and step out of that weekend warrior side business mentality. How can we keep a truck busy for 5 or 6 days a week and for 8 or 9 hours a day or 10 hours a day? And it's not that easy to do. Initially getting off the ground, when we started taking this more seriously, we figured we could just dump as much money as we could into Google ads and thought that everything was just going to fall like rain out of the sky. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work. And if it does, it's really only temporary. It is. And so we started looking around and trying to figure out what we were missing. And that's when we bumped in to all of this SEO stuff that's being done out there and all of this cool technology that I really have no experience or background in. And you really start seeing how companies out there are taking advantage of branding themselves and basically telling a story, as what they stand for, letting people know who they are, rather than just being a truck that pulls up. And so the more that I've seen this type of SEO approach going around, the more you start believing in the concept. And it became clear that it was the only way that we were going to reach enough people to be busy long term. Again, just throwing a certain amount of money at Google just wasn't enough, and it doesn't work. So the long-term approach, especially for getting the quality customers that you're looking for, not just looking for a quick sale, but looking for somebody who's going to trust you and call you down the line when they need something. And we see so much of that in the last year. So much of our workload is repeat business. It's a huge part of what we do. And this branding, if I had begun the branding process 2 years ago, I'd be in a completely different place, but we kind of had tunnel vision and didn't have a lot of insight as to what was really going on out there. And so opening our eyes to the branding concept, has been a whole new ballgame for us. And I originally just thought that branding was just putting a bunch of your signs all over the place, making a billboard, putting yourself on the radio. I just didn't realize how much more goes into it, telling a story and building something bigger than, just a sign on the side of the road. So yeah,
Right.
that's been a big part of what you guys at Alpha Media have basically shown the light on what we've been missing.
Now, in the industry of junk removal, I would say, as we find, like trying to register these junk removal categories online, they'll put it under waste management. It seems that it's not a newer type of business, but it's still new enough that it's our responsibility to enlighten communities, our clients, about what junk removal really is. Because back in the day, before some of these franchises or different companies came out, is that there wasn't really a junk removal niche. It was the landscaper, or you would have to kind of figure out how to do it yourself. And we live in a different fast moving society where people don't have trucks and trailers at their disposal. And, it's a process. So how would you educate someone in a couple sentences on what is junk removal? What can they expect? If I say landscaping, I say carpentry, or someone says that to me, I'm going to have some questions, right? Because that can mean different things, but I still understand the broader definition. How would you define junk removal for clientele out there?
Yeah. So part of what you're asking, what's really interesting that I don't hear a lot of people talk about in the junk removal industry is that there are so many people that contact us um, kind of by accident, whether it might be a neighbor or they may have stumbled across something online or on Facebook and where they weren't really looking for us. And so many people say the same thing. We didn't know a company like this even existed. And even with bigger companies like Got 100, 1-800 Got Junk, companies like that have been around so long, there's still people out there that don't know that these types of companies are even around. So there's clearly a ton of stuff that is sitting in people's basements, in sheds, in garages, and these people just don't know that they have, an option out there. And that's
Mhm.
exactly the answer to your question. Um, Everybody has a spot in their basement or their attic, shed, garage, and they don't know that there's an option out there where they can pick up the phone and have it gone. A lot of times people will tell us we've been looking at the same pile for 30 years and we called you yesterday and it was gone in less than 24 hours, and they are beside themselves that that type of service even exists.
Mhm.
And we just come in unattached to the emotion of all of that stuff because it's not our baggage, and so we can come in and just provide the labor, a little bit of patience and sensitivity to the fact that these are some items they might have you know held dear for a long time, and
Right.
we just get it done for them really quickly. So there's so much that this industry has to offer to people that don't even know this service exists, and so there's lots of things that we can do to branch
Mhm.
ourselves out there and reach all of those people. And it's one
Right.
thing when we're competing against one company against another, but it's another thing for a company like myself to try to reach out where no one else is looking and try to find
Mhm.
those folks that don't know we're out there or the service is out there, period. So
Right. I remember growing up. You and I are similar in age, right? We're from the same generation, right around the Gen X generation, right? They call us the confused generation. We don't know if we want to watch something, read something, and some of us were kind of a product of our parents, but we're also rebels in our own right of how we want to do things. I remember being around my godparents, and they had just stuff. They were part of raising me, my godparents back in San Jose, and there was just stuff stacked everywhere. And I remember as a kid asking them, "Why are you keeping all this stuff?" And, "Oh, we're keeping it for the kids." And then you meet, and then they pass away, and they've since passed away. And I've seen this story not just exclusive to them, but the kids will come and they'll be like, "Throw it away." I've noticed there's such a difference in generations that the baby boomers and even the Gen Xers, and you get into like millennials, that I've really started to adopt more of this minimalist philosophy. I had Josh Sperling and Doug Calhoun come out to my place, and I I think they were a little surprised, but I don't own a whole lot. I got a family, but I'm just not into stuff. I'm not into things. My wife and I don't really care, and I've noticed that with this generation, where you'll have people passing away, and they're going to leave it to their kids, but their kids don't want it. I've seen gold and silver and game boxes and books just thrown in the trash because they're like, I just don't want this stuff. Are you noticing that type of thing out there, where there's kind of are you taking inventory where how people approach hoarding things or getting rid of things? Do you think it's a generational shift that's happening right now, or is this just something that I'm seeing?
no, absolutely, and there's another part to what you're talking about when it comes to parents and their kids. A lot of the parents that I talk with are will tell us that they've got a bunch of stuff in their their basement, for instance, that their kids told them they were going to get to. We're going to handle this, mom. We're going to handle this, dad. And the stuff ends up just sitting there
Right.
for years. And so they're never reaching out for any help because it's always something that somebody has told them they're going to get around to. But there's definitely a big difference in, a younger generation in terms of keeping stuff. And, and everything in this generation is smaller, more compact. It goes up on the wall on a flat screen. It's not a giant console. It's not a big armoire. People just aren't shopping for big things that take up space. It seems like the younger generation wants their floor plan back.
Right. Their open space.
Yeah,
I agree. So I think, and what I've seen, having come from this industry too, I was raised blue collar, is that there's an emotional side to this, that people feel this great sense like they're purging something, right? Like, hey, I got that stuff rid of the garage. What do you find your job is when you're on the job? Are you just there to just to get the junk and get out? Do you find yourself coaching clients? Do you find yourself addressing safety issues? What do you find were maybe some of the surprises, or maybe you weren't surprised by them, but it might be surprises to others? This isn't just junk removals of what I'm getting to. My background is in behavioral therapy, and people say, well, why aren't you using your degree? I said, man, I talk to a lot of clients. I'm using my degree every single day, So what have you found that kind of surprised you? You've been in this for several years now. What have you found that's something you can share with the audience, that it isn't just junk removal, it's also what are you running across out there in the field?
Yeah. So you just jogged my memory. One of the first bigger jobs that I was on, we had an old mirror that was part of a dresser that was really important to somebody. And about halfway through the job, one of my helpers had brought the mirror into the truck, and they tossed it in the truck like it was a basketball. And this mirror shattered so loud. I've never heard anything that loud in my life. And I was standing right next to the customer, and I will never forget the look on their face when they heard that mirror break. And it certainly wasn't something intentional. It was just, we were hustling and we were trying to get the job done. But it really, I will never forget that moment, because it really opened my eyes to how much something, even if something's headed for the landfill or to be recycled, there is probably some emotional attachment to a lot of the pieces out there. And people will usually come right out and tell you how hard it is to take something away. But there's a lot of times where they might be choked up and they're not willing to tell you how much it means. And so they're just doing their best to deal with the fact that you're taking away something that belonged to their grandmother, or or it might be a bench they sat on when they were 5 years old and, were learning to play piano with their grandparents. So, as a result of that moment, I might be one of the quietest junk removers in the business right now, because I ask my helpers to tiptoe when it comes to, certain pieces of furniture when they go into the truck. There will never be anything broken or shattered in anybody's presence again after that. So it certainly brought me a lot closer to how tied to things that people can be.
Yeah, you end up being a counselor. I was talking to the owner of Get My Junk, William Pierce, about this. We're talking about EQ, which is your emotional quotient, which is IQ is fine. We can talk about IQ all day, but you can sit in a box or sit in a classroom all by yourself and have a high or low IQ, but it doesn't say anything about your people interaction. And I think getting into junk removal, I think you either have to have a high EQ or you're going to get one, because you're going to have to sharpen that skill of learning how to work with people from different backgrounds, different religions, different generations, different walks of life. And again, like you're saying, having that common denominator, like, okay, we're going to go in a little bit covertly and quiet because we don't know what this person is not telling us. I think that's such good wisdom that you're dropping right there, because it's not always what the customer is telling you, it's what they're not telling you, right?
Absolutely.
You don't know if their husband just passed away. You don't know if they just went through a divorce. You don't always know the circumstances, and you're coming in and, and I've seen a situation where a mom and a dad split up, and the mom wanted everything out of the house. Well, there's a 12-year-old kid, and he came running out, and he jumps on the trailer and starts hugging onto the stuff. It's like, what do you do? What do you say? The
Yeah.
kids looking at us like, don't you dare take our stuff. And it's like you're in the middle of a situation. And fortunately, I had my background to rely on a little bit. I'm not claiming to be an expert, even though I've had professional training. I wasn't sure what to do, and I've had professional training. So my point is, I can only imagine when someone's had no training. What do you do in that situation? Hey, get off there, kid. You know, you have to walk through the situation because those things represent his dad, who's not around anymore, right? And so I think each situation's so unique, and then the extension part of that is you have to prepare your team. Hey, we're not here just to it's not the same as movers, because movers, you have different challenges. You're moving it from one location to the next. Safety, facilitation, important items, but when you're taking something that's junk but it's also a treasure, how do you handle that? What are some ways that you've taken some situations or an example where you've had to, like the mirror, that you've maybe had to train or educate your staff? What are some other things that you teach them besides just coming in quiet, you as the boss? What is your role? What do you teach your folks that work for you so they can best interact with your clients?
Yeah, a perfect example uh, to that question. We see a lot of cleanouts that involve people who will tell us, here's all the stuff we need taken away in the basement, but there's a large section here that I need to go through first before you guys can come in and do the work. And the minute you hear that, what they've done is they've given themselves another opportunity to put this job off. And so you might be there with an estimate, but when you hear that, I really step in and let people know that if we can be, we might be a bigger help if we can come in and help you separate first some of the items that you want to go through, okay, and get all the pressure off of you, and let us tackle some of the bigger items. And that's exactly what I let the workers or helpers know. If we're coming on a job like that, like we're going to go low key, we're going to take our time with this, and we're going to make sure to set A, B, and C aside, and we're going to give them the time that they need to handle some of these boxes and some of the smaller items that they want to pick through. And in the meantime, we stay busy with the bigger pieces of furniture. And whatever they're going to hang on to, we always offer to stack back up as neatly as we can. And it keeps the process moving, and it takes all the pressure off of them because they've got some people they feel like that are there motivating them and that are helping them get through this stuff. And it's always a different kind of job than just picking up a bunch of construction debris. That's obviously a different motivation, and you're obviously going for speed right. But when we're coming up on jobs, and almost half of our work it involves something where we're putting things aside because people really need that final push to get through this stuff. It's very easy for people to come up with a few more reasons to put this off down the road, and you
Right.
probably aren't going to hear from them again. Is the truth.
Sure. What I'm hearing is really conscientiousness. You have to take inventory of the surroundings. What's the client going through? Your team? Do they need something taken away now, taken away later? I read a study by a company called Hartford. I think it's out of Connecticut area, and Hartford something. And they talked about the number one quality that someone looked for in an employee was conscientiousness. Are you aware of what the team needs? Good self-awareness, awareness of your surroundings, I guess, would be the short definition of it. You've been in business for a while. This goes on your YouTube channel. People are going to find it here or find it on my channel. If you could give a message to your customers that you've worked with over the years, kind of like a encompassing message, what's something you'd like to share with your customers that you've serviced up until this point, about odds and ends, about how they've helped you get to where you are? Would you like to share something with them on this channel?
Yeah, absolutely. We owe a lot to the community here. We have seen so much repeat business based just on word of mouth. And so much of that comes from trust, from the moment of them having a problem that they need solved and not knowing where to look. And there's apprehension to making that first phone call. And there's a lot of people, I think most people who are calling a junk removal company probably don't have really high expectations. And they might be a little bit worried about who's going to show up at their door or about what the service even is. And so they're very relieved when they find, a super friendly voice that answers the phone, that is
Mhm.
super attentive to what they need done. I don't have a set speech that I start rattling off. I listen, twice as much as I talk. I want to hear what they need done.
Smart.
I want to hear what's stressing them out, what's bugging
Mhm.
them the most. And, a lot of times they'll tell you that they've been given the runaround or they haven't had phone calls returned. So just showing up, just answering the phone right off the bat or returning an email as quickly as possible, in 5 or 10 minutes, it blows people away. If you return an email in 5 or 10 minutes, people can't believe it. And it's always their first reaction. Thanks for getting back to me so quickly. And that's what we hear all the time. Thanks for getting back to me so quickly, and showing up. So much of our work involves people with move out dates. So they might be leaving an address and their closing date is on a Saturday, and their worst nightmare is being, stood up by either a moving company or a junk removal company. And so when they look up our reviews and when they look up um, the experiences people have had, they know they have someone who's going to show up on the moving day. And it doesn't matter if somebody's sick. It doesn't matter if a truck breaks down. There's another way we're going to get to you with another truck or with another crew member or whatever it's going to take to get that job done. So much, like I said, of what we do involves super important dates. A lot of what we do involves um, furniture being delivered. Might not be a move out, but it might just be new furniture coming in. And so getting there at 9 a.m. because new stuff is going to be arriving at noon is a big deal. And people
Mhm.
are certainly concerned when they're calling a junk removal company. How punctual are you guys going to be? And certain in jobs like that, timeliness is a huge factor.
Mhm.
So we take all of those things into consideration. What are the needs and how can we meet them? And how can we turn that customer into an awesome review and another sale down the road?
Very good. Well, give us some information. I always enjoy talking to you, Paul, about all sorts of things, and I enjoy our weekly calls we have with our team. I consider you part of the AMG family, man. You've been here with us, and it's great that we're able to sharpen each other. I learn a lot from you guys too. I have you guys to thank because honestly, I take notes from all of you. I come into those weekly meetings and you guys are out in the field and learning that, hey, I don't always want to be the smartest person in the room, kind of that cliched phrase, right? I want to be learning from what you guys gather and teach me. Before we get into the call outs of about your company, how people get in touch with you, give me something that you've learned from our group that you can share. I know we don't share everything because we're a tight knit group and we want to focus on helping people within the group. But how has it helped you grow personally in your business? What are some things that you've adopted and used moving forward?
Yeah, there are so many tiny um, little attentions to detail that I've learned along the way in the last few months. That especially with contact, with getting back to people, with sending out thank you cards. Um, there is so much information that I hadn't been exposed to. You can only learn so much on your own when you're involved with other people that are in the same exact line of work. It's really interesting to hear them having the same kind of concerns and learning experiences. And
Mhm.
most of the people that we're working with right now are a good few miles ahead of where I am. So there's definitely a lot smarter people in the room. Um, from where I'm
Right.
sitting. And so yeah, I'm learning a ton. Just watching at how well you guys have put together these logos and dressed these trucks up. These companies out there look fantastic. And everything ties to each other, whether it be the logo on the website matching the logo on the uniform, matching Facebook, matching the truck. You know,
Mhm.
Pat with all of his cool designs, and it all comes around full circle, and you can kind of see that message, with each
Right.
company ringing loud and clear. And I mean, you've got several guys: Matt Beasley, uh, Matthew Moses, Doug Calhoun, Josh, Tina, Jay Silva. There's these guys. These guys have been around and know what they're doing. You know what I mean? I mean, half those guys could run seminars on business,
Right.
not just junk removal, but there really are some good talkers, very, very good
Mhm.
speakers. And so,
Right.
you know, it's been kind of cool to sit in the back row and be listening. And, you know, at some point, maybe, you know, I'm doing a seminar, but, you know, for now, there's been a ton to learn from. So it's been fun.
I notice you're a good listener in the room, and I'm always watching those listeners. I'm like, that's the person that's going to take those notes and go out and run with them. And I've seen you apply those things. You mentioned earlier about car sales being your college, if I caught that correctly. It was
Yep.
your education. And that's really, and I've gone to college, and I value education. I believe education shouldn't stop at 4 years. I think we should be sharpening ourselves all the time, reading books. You know, I talked to DNA Proclean, and he says if he could go back in time and tell himself, you know, when he got started, because he's already a reader, and it was like, read more books, you know, do more push-ups, have more disciplines in place to build your business. And he's an avid reader. We're always, when we do talk, we're always talking about the last book that he's read. So, way I see that marketing and branding was my approach. I knew with branding, I wasn't going to catch everybody that just wanted to go out and catch a fish. I knew I was training fishermen and women, and it was a risky approach because it was going to be maybe a slower growth process. But I knew I wanted to build my business on this principle because I didn't want to be a home advisor. I didn't want to just be an ad agency. I wanted to be something that was really building a foundation for somebody long term. But I love what I've seen because it wasn't even my idea to bring this group together like we've talked about. It was clients that came to me, and I feel that we've built this, you know, college or university type atmosphere where we're all able to glean and learn from each other. And I think that's where marketing should go. And I'm not afraid of competition. I want to see my competitors do well. I want to see the brand of marketing be an awesome brand. So I believe there's enough business out there for everyone that's doing it well. And I believe in what Jim Rohn says, don't try to put your competitors out, set the bar so high that they have to reach. I know I'm chopping up his words here, but that's the
Yeah.
concept. And so I love that our group is more than when you step into what we're doing. And I give credit to the group. I'm not saying this for Alpha. Alpha has been part of it, but really that we've been able to build, like, it feels like a school. It feels like a school where we're able to mentor and talk with each other. And you all, I get excited when I hear that you all are talking to each other on your own time. I learned this from so and so, and you know, Matthew Moses was teaching me about Google My Business, and I'm hearing these different things, and you'll find out as you reach into with some of these people, man, they're silent killers. These people are crushing the business. But I love what Moses said. He goes, Jeff, he goes, if I would have found something like this, he goes, I know how to do these things because I didn't have help. I had to go and teach myself. He goes, and I'm not proud of that necessarily. I'm happy to share that now. He goes, but I would have saved myself 2 to 5 years worth of time. Like you said, if you can go back 2 years ago. And I think that's the value. And that's the value I want people to know. Look, it's not just Alpha Media Group. You get access to Paul Lindahl. You get access to, you know, Travis Mejia. It doesn't matter where you're at in the stage of the game because people are going to identify with different people. You know, I've heard a couple people really talk about Jay Silva, who's newer, but they look at Jay Silva as a mentor. That's awesome. You don't have to be in this for 27 years to be considered a mentor. You
Yeah.
know, you could be brand new. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, that's where I see that it's really grown and evolved. And to me, I would love to actually see other marketing companies do that. That's actually a goal of mine. If they're my competitor, fantastic. I think it'd be great if we just bring a more awesome brand to the industry.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
so, comments or thoughts on that before we close out? Did you have any thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. So whether it be um, junk removal related, or whether it be business sense, or whether it be accounting, or whether it be equipment, or whether it be internet, there are so many different topics that go on here that, you know, I would have never bumped into or educated myself. I'd be too focused on how I'm going to get the next phone call, you know, not how I'm going to, you know, keep track of all of my emails, you know, or how I'm going to get involved in text message marketing and whatnot. There's so many things that are being discussed that, you know, it's been a huge plus to have. So yeah, I couldn't have expected to get this much information, and at times it can be overwhelming because you realize how much work there is left to do.
Right. Right.
But fortunately, other people have kind of been through some of those hardships, and as they're giving away their experience, they're making it
Right.
easier for me to get through those bumps in the road that are inevitably gonna come.
Absolutely. Well, tell us, Paul, how can we get in touch with you? We'll have it pop up here on the screen, but give us the website and some call out digits so we can get in touch with you, have clients reach you. I
Absolutely.
think you offer such a great service. I think your brand is really going to go far. And I think it's not, I see you as someone's not going to kick up your heels and, hey, this is who we are. I see your brand is evolving, but let us know how we can all get in touch with you.
Yeah, you can reach us at 860-604-3851. We take calls 7 days a week. There's never a day that you can't get a hold of somebody. And if we miss you, it says it right on my voicemail. We're going to get back to you in less than 5 minutes. And that's what we do every time. You can also find us online, oddsandendsjunkremoval.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us just about everywhere. And don't hesitate to look us up on Google My Business, and you can read all of our wonderful reviews that our awesome clients have left us, and they've shared a lot of experience that they've had with odds and ends. And so, if you're looking for any information about our company, you won't have trouble finding it out there because we're all over the place. So we appreciate it.
Right. That's right. We talk about don't rank on Google, rank everywhere. And
Absolutely.
if you're watching this on Odds and Ends YouTube channel, hit that subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment, and give us some feedback. If you have questions about the industry, if you have questions about marketing, if you have questions directly from Paul, we share the same value system. As much as we grow as business owners, we want to be reachable by our clientele and people that are out there that want to know about our industry. So thank you, Paul. Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jeff. Good seeing you.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for watching, guys.